Question 35. This question asking us to perform testing procedures to determine Accru's reportable operating segments. So here we are going to perform 3 different tests, and if any segment satisfy one of the tests, then it's reportable. Okay, so the first test I'm going to do is the revenue test, and to perform the revenue test, first is to calculate what is the total revenue of each segment. So here I provide this table to show you the calculation of total revenue for each segment. And the total revenue for each segment equals to the sales to outside parties plus inter-segment transfers plus interest income from outside parties and interest income from inter-segment loans. Okay, so now I got total revenues for each segment, and next I got the total revenue of all the operating segments, and the total is 11,087. So next is we need to calculate the threshold. So threshold is 10% of the total revenue. So that is 10%. It's 10% of the total revenue, and it equals to 1109, around 1109. And then any segment that have a total revenue larger than this amount are reportable. So here, let's check their individual total revenues. And first is plastic. Its total revenue is 6,942, and it's larger than the threshold, which means that it's reportable. Okay, so this is reportable. And metals, the total revenue is 2,561. Also larger than 10% of total revenue, is reportable. Well, for the other 3 segments, their total revenue is smaller than the 10% of total revenue, which means that they didn't pass this test. Okay, so next let's move on to the profit and loss test. In profit and loss test, I'm going to use the total revenue we just calculated directly. So those numbers just calculated in the prior table, and next I just use the total revenue minus their operating expense and interest expense, and then get the net income of each segment. And the next step is to calculate the profit of all profitable segments and the loss of all segments incurring a loss. So for the profit of all profitable segments, it equals to the profit from plastics plus profit from metals and plus the profit from finance. Those are the 3 profitable segments, and the total is 3,429. And then next we calculate the loss of all segments incurring a loss. So here we have 2 segments, lumber and paper. They incurred a loss. In total, that is 372. So next, if we compare these 2 numbers in their absolute term, we see that so the total profit of all profitable segments are the larger number. It is 3,429. So next is that we're going to calculate what is the 10% of this number. So 10% of the profit of all profitable segment equals to 343, rounded to this number. So next step is to compare each segment's net income with this number, see whether if it's larger than this amount in absolute term, then it's reportable. Okay, so first plastic, its net income is more than 2,000. It's larger than this amount and is reportable. Metal 768 is larger than this amount, also reportable. Well, for the other 3 departments, doesn't matter whether they have a loss or profit. So in absolute terms, are not larger than this 343, which means that they are not reportable. Okay, so far only have 2 segments that are reportable, and then let's move on to our last test, the asset test. So to get asset test, first we need to calculate the total asset of each department. So total asset of each department equals to the tangible asset plus intangible asset and plus intersegment loans or debt. And then we get the total asset of each department, and then we need to calculate what is total assets combine all the operating segments. So the total is 7,430, and then next we need to calculate what is 10% of that amount. So 10% of the total assets equal to 743, and this is the threshold, and any segment that have a total asset larger than this amount are reportable. So we have plastic is total asset larger than this amount is reportable, and the metals total asset also larger than this amount reportable, and then papers and finance, they all have a total asset larger than this threshold, and lumbers total asset is smaller than this asset. Okay, so now after considering all 3 tests, we can see that we have 4 departments. They have to report their segment data separately. They are plastic, metal, paper, and finance.